Well, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us on Logistics Executive TV. Today I'm joined in Logistics Uncapped series by a colleague, Sam Achampong, who is the head of CIPS here in the Gulf, and he's the regional manager, director for CIPS Middle East, North Africa. Sam, you've been in the Gulf for about 15, 16 years and the head of CIPS for about 9 or 10 years. Welcome to the show.
Kim, good to see you again. It's a real pleasure to see you again, and thanks for inviting me onto your show.
Absolutely. Always good to see you, Sam. So, Sam, the reason I wanted to talk to you today is because you recently published an article which got really big time following and a lot of comments, great deal of interest from around the world. But prior to that, for folks who don't know much about CIPS, I'm sure anybody in the procurement and inventory world in particular and supply chain would, but maybe you can give us a bit of a heads up on CIPS itself and perhaps a bit about your journey as well.
Sure, yeah. The article was quite popular because it spoke about jobs, so that's obviously always a very popular subject. But yeah, as far as CIPS or CIPS are concerned, for those who don't know, CIPS stands for the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. Were established almost 100 years ago in the UK for the precise purpose of representing and developing the procurement and supply chain profession, or the profession of purchasing, as it was in those days. So moving from there, yeah, we now operate in over 180 countries around the world. We have regional offices on all continents, and I think, as you said, Kim, I manage the Middle East region, which is headquartered here in the UAE, in Dubai, where I'm sitting at the moment, and I've been in this role for over 9 years. But going back, yeah, I'm a procurement and supply chain practitioner myself. That's been my career over the years, and I've been in procurement roles and a CIPS member before I joined the institute. So I've been outside and in the institute. So my role is yeah, to develop that art and science of the procurement and supply chain profession across the Middle East, in a region where it's still a little bit embryonic, but growing very fast.
Excellent. Now, you hold regular events. You provide one of the top qualifications and certifications anywhere in the supply chain globally. But up here, of course, you're very active, not only here in the UAE, but also in Saudi and right across the Gulf. Let's talk about the article that you put up and why you think it got such a huge following and so many comments.
Yeah, I think look, there's a couple of things unique to the Gulf region when it comes to jobs. Everyone's interested in jobs. Okay, whenever there's anything up there, whenever you see salary guides go around, they're probably the most followed articles. But what I was talking about here in this case was the demand for procurement and supply chain professionals, and of course in the Gulf that's particularly on vogue because the Gulf region is characterized by having a lot of expats. So if you look at the UAE, we're probably talking about 90 to 95% of the population are expats, and which means the only reason, or one of the main reasons you're in the country is you followed your career. So anything related to jobs is going to be very interesting. But apart from that, I think some people were kind of called to action because they were interested in the fact that procurement and supply chain staff, procurement and supply chain talent are in such demand, and that's what the article was focused on, to say back to the audience that this profession is one that's in demand, is being paid well, salaries are being increased because procurement and supply chain talent is so critical to a few things, to the development and advancement of a lot of organizations. And as we've seen, we had a few unnatural disasters in the Middle East recently. Plus we can go all the way back to COVID, or we can talk about supply chain issues. And it is those procurement and supply chain professionals who are providing that mitigation to organizations. They're the ones with the expertise to enable organizations to navigate through these uncertain times. And that's why, particularly now, procurement and supply chain professionals are in demand.
Sure. Well, thanks for sharing that. And of course, yeah, we have had some fairly significant disruptive events taking place around here, weather not excluded, in recent times. But I've got to say, it's been a remarkable recovery by organisations, both private and public sector here, as you'll appreciate. So you're a great proponent of looking out and being entrepreneurial about where people should be thinking in terms of careers within not just procurement, inventory, and that part of supply chain, but broader supply chain in general. As you know, since we've been here since 2005, there's always been a significant shortfall in talent versus the demand across supply chain and logistics in the entire Gulf. You've always been very strong on encouraging people to come across industries into, particularly your case, the procurement side of things. How are you seeing that happen? Are you seeing much interest in people coming from outside supply chain and into the supply chain field?
Yeah, I see a lot of people from different functions, different expertise, different talent pools coming into procurement. Skills are very, very transferable, especially when you look at specific industries, FMCG, oil and gas, banking, and people have a fear of crossing those industry boundaries, and really there shouldn't really be a fear of that. What I'm a proponent of is looking at procurement or supply chain as being your profession. So if you're a professional in that field, then you should be able to transgress across any industry in the same way as any other professional would, in the same way as any, an accountant or a lawyer is industry agnostic. And the way you do that is by understanding or learning or kind of majoring on procurement and or supply chain as your particular sphere of expertise, rather than the industry or the company you're working with. And that's very important because one of the things that we find in our findings is that, and I think this is the emotive part of the article, a lot of people are saying, okay, so if there's such demand for procurement professionals, why have I been looking for a job for 12 or 13 months? What about this other person I know? And there is a bit of a nuance on when we say procurement and supply chain professionals are in demand, and the nuance is in that word professionals. And look, a lot of people have a lot of experience, etc., but in a kind of developing region like this, companies find it difficult to identify the relative competency of professionals in a kind of discipline like procurement and supply chain. Yeah. Because you may have worked in an organization in procurement and supply chain for many, many years, but they're unable to determine whether you're any good or not, because just by being in that role in a particular company does not provide them with that assurance or differentiation, which is why that's where the certifications and the qualifications come into it, because you're able to externally evidence that you understand the procurement and supply chain as a profession, and then you're able to then put those skills into practice, to the extent that, look, we find a disparity between people who have MCIPS, which is what we call MCIPS, what we call the license to practice, or the kind of highest qualification, let's call it that. We find a salary disparity between people who have MCIPS and those who don't, doing the same role. We see a disparity of 36%. Wow. between what an organization will pay person A who has MCIPS and person B who doesn't, in terms of a salary. And it's because, they're looking to validate your experience, and if they can validate your experience, I think they're willing to pay the money. And the second thing is, when we say there's a scarcity of resource, of course, what they're saying is a scarcity of, as I alluded to before, professionally qualified resource. And there are many organizations and many more, and I could mention a few, who these days, when they put out job adverts, are saying, we need you to have this recognizable designation, qualification or certification if you want to be in procurement, if you want to spend our organization's money.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, what we've done is we've put the article across here so people can go on the link and have a look at it. It was very well put together. So I congratulate you on that. It's not surprising it got so much interest because it covers a lot of ground. Quick question to wrap up, or a couple of questions. Are there any particular industry sectors? I mean, you know, I live in the lens of logistics and supply chain, but in terms of the procurement profession, any particular spikes in the Gulf around at the moment in terms of different industries?
Do you know what? Not really. It really is across the board, and the reason why probably is because a lot of the demand is being driven by Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is going through a huge transformation to kind of pivot its primary revenue resource away from oil and gas. So with the Vision 2030 project, they are in the process of building up several new industries, infrastructure, and new kind of sources of investment. And they're doing it all at once. So that means that in the construction industry, in the banking industry, hospitality industry, in government procurement, there are big spikes and requirements and needs across all of those industries. So there really isn't a particular sector. So if there is a sector in the GCC or the Gulf area at the moment, it's probably in public procurement or government procurement, because there's a real focus on getting the best people in that sector.
Yeah, I see the latest figures the other day for GDP growth around here is, you know, in 3s and 4s, whereas much of the developed world is down around 1s and 2s at the moment. So I think we're seeing the result of those investments, particularly in Saudi, but it's flowing right across the Gulf, obviously. Hey, it's brilliant, Sam. Really good to catch up with you again. I do appreciate you sparing a few minutes with us, talking about the article, about the demand that's going on. Salaries are, as you said, are up, and the demand is up here. So it's been a long cycle of up, I've got to say. We're not seeing too much downturn in the cycle. I really appreciate, as I say, the articles here. How would people get hold of you, Sam, if they want to ask about CIPS and the qualifications?
Sure, just look me up, Sam Achampong. Just look me up on LinkedIn.
Yeah, now I think we can see that above the screen as well. Sam, thanks so much. Really enjoyed catching up, and all the best. I know you've got a number of big events coming up in the next month or two, so all the best. We'll look forward to catching up with you in person.
Absolutely, yes. If anyone's around, 16th of May, we're in Riyadh for our regional event, so come and check us out there. But thanks again, Kim. Great to see you again. Keep doing what you do. Take care.
Cheers, Sam. All the best.